When you're ready, Evan.
This is a prototype of my publication. Obviously, the aim of this was to create a magazine or publication based on with the theme of homelessness. It was either to, state your views on homelessness, whether you're with or against, or just maybe simply bring awareness. When I first heard about this project, I thought maybe I can use my own personal experience of being homeless as a way to let other people know, what it feels like and how easily it can happen. Which is why I decided that I would have case studies of people's stories, because what better way to know about what it's like being homeless than from people who've experienced it. This is why I came up with the idea of the title being unobserved, because people won't really talk about it unless it's brought up or they see it. And even then, if they see it in the streets, how many people would actually just want to stop and show concern for it? This also, I had a couple of designs. My first initial concept was, it's a magazine. How hard can it be? Which I ended up eating those words, let's just say. Seeing as I'd never done a magazine before, it's a new thing, learning about the typography, which I found very interesting, because I never thought that when making a typeface, things you have to consider are the X height and guidelines to a type. I enjoyed making my own typeface. However, due to my own the way I just work, I didn't think about how I can integrate my own typeface into what I was doing. My target audience for this would be obviously people who feel that they're safe, from homelessness, because I'm pretty sure some people think, oh, it's not going to happen to me, I'm quite comfortable at the moment. However, that can easily change. I had a couple of ideas. I thought of doing a magazine with different articles, but I felt I'm by myself here. I'm not going to be able to create a magazine completely by myself, so I thought I'd cut down and maybe just booklets were an idea, because if you are in a situation where you may be homeless, council and Stonepillow and stuff will have leaflets, booklets, pamphlets for you with advice. This also came up with where I would sell, well, I say sell, it'd be, it'd be given out at places like libraries, Stonepillow, other charities, the council, because that's where people go. My publication doesn't cost anything, but it does have a recommended donation of about £2. But you don't have to pay it. It's very similar to like at the Tate Modern, where it says take one and donate £1 or something. Not everybody does that. I personally haven't done that a couple of times. But hopefully people will see it and think, it's going to a good cause, because all the money which is made from this will go to Stonepillow and help them on their cause. I had another idea where it would be a little slip which would have different leaflets in. However, I thought that would be a bit too much and a bit too confusing. If someone opened it, it's like, hang on, what's what? Why is there so many separate pieces for just one subject? Which is why I decided I'll do a pamphlet with 3 booklets on the different areas of homelessness. When I researched it, there were words of chronic homelessness and episodic homelessness. However, these aren't really nice words to describe it. So I had to think about it and think, if I was in those situations, how would I like to be described to that type of homelessness? Which is why I came up with temporary, occasional, and long term, because they sound a lot softer in the ears, let's say. This is going on to concerns of my legal and ethical. Like, I researched for case studies, and these case studies are, where I got them from is in my bibliography. I looked at websites like Crisis, St Mungo's in London, and they have lots of case studies based on true, real people's stories. And I felt these would be best to come in because they cover a range of the homelessness, and everybody's been in at least one situation in those on the websites. I also had to think about, well, you know, I might offend people, you know, language, or there might be something that maybe people who have been homeless may think, hang on, that's not true, that's not how I like to think about this, that's not what I like to be described as, which is something I had to take into consideration when writing down. I went through different design appearances of my booklets. However, a lot of it was, I tried to get typography into the booklet, because obviously typography being a huge part of this project, I felt it'd be important to have it in. A lot of my typography pieces, like which you'll see in the booklets, are based on Tomato, like when they do Skyscraper I Love You and In the Belly of St Paul, because I felt, well, especially with their clustered typography art, I felt that kind of explains like how your mind is just all over the place if you're in that situation. You've lost your home, you don't know how you got there, you don't know what you're going to do, who's going to help you, where can you go. And I also felt for In the Belly of St Paul, it gives that idea of being alone, because it's not a lot of writing on a page, but each line is almost as if someone's thinking about it, is what's going through their mind at that point in time. I initially came up with my final title design based on Kapil Bhagat's idea of having subtle, like it tells a story subtly about what the title is, because he'd come up with ideas of Newton where the O would be an apple on the floor, and I thought unobserved I'd have some fading, because obviously people don't notice, people should notice, but it's a sad truth of it really. This meant I used a typography Century Gothic, I think. I felt it's very minimalist, I think, and it kind of makes the publication look tidy and very consistent in the shape and everything. Unfortunately, due to my own downfall, time management caused me not to finish my publication how I wanted it to be finished. There's no excuses for how it is now, which is why it's only a prototype, but I feel for this launch party, maybe I could just, you know, update it, make it, improve it, just for, you know, to make it more appealing to my target audience, and then it can make more money for Stone Pillow. This also means the initial binding, which are in the booklets which I give you, it's not very good. It looks messy, it doesn't make it look professional. So I'm feeling that if I'm actually going to distribute this into the public, I'm going to have to come up with a better idea for binding it. This, you know, my coming up with the idea of scoring, stapling, I feel that is, you know, receiving feedback from it is kind of suitable for the booklets, and that's how most of them are done if you were to find them in a, you know, a leaflet stack thing.
I think we're going to move on to questions, if that's okay,
Yeah.
Evan.
Fine.
Do you have any questions for us?
Is it actually okay? I mean, I'm assuming that would get marked, but is it okay to actually improve it for the launch party if we do have one?
It won't include.
And I'm not saying it counts as a mark, but is it something we're allowed to do?
It is.
Okay.
I would say that in my experience of teaching at this level,
Yeah.
so at level 4, level 5, students, when they tend to start a course,
Yeah.
rely on that kind of thing,
Yeah.
as opposed to just trying to meet
Yeah.
the deadline. So that kind of leads me on to a time management question for you. Because you can have time management strategies.
Yeah.
I have some of my own. that I need to apply, otherwise I don't get certain things done. I also know as a professional there's certain jobs that I won't touch
Yeah.
because of the kind of time management.
Yeah.
What time management strategies might you apply in the future?
I feel, especially like when I get a brief, I can think about potential ideas, write them down, make sure I have them so I can remember them, and then tamper with the ideas I've come up with. Make sure that instead of going home after I finish college and think, I'll relax for a little bit before I start doing work, that ends up just you procrastinating throughout the rest of the evening. Go home, go, right, I've got to get this done, then I can relax. And I feel that will help me improve professionally and also help me academically reach deadlines and make sure I know the deadline, make sure that's when I've got to get everything done for, and try and get it, at least have one idea completed ages before the deadline, so then I can receive feedback.
Okay. So it seems like you have some ideas and some idea of where things kind of fell a little bit short. And I appreciate you coming in today and still presenting. I think maybe one of your solutions is actually investigate time management itself. I mean, there's a whole world out there. People get employed, as time management advisors. There's careers in that. So there's a lot of methods and techniques that maybe actually would be a gold mine for you.
Okay.
And really enhance that confidence that you've got.
Yeah, I think one of the things you need to do is not work towards the deadline, you work back from it.
Yeah.
Where you work that way, then you know you've got enough time to do it. The other side of it, in terms of time management, how did you feel if you were managing change? Did you have any problems that you need to overcome? Did that affect your time management skills?
Well, I think most of my time management skills are, the problems with it are my own problem, is how I, how I feel about coming onto it, my own motivation.
So the problem with the binding, for instance, wasn't a time factor?
I think it was more
necessity.
it's just me. Well, that was me just kind of going, I've left this to the last minute. I've given myself no time to get prepared to do the binding. It's more me lamenting my own.
And I found this quite interesting because you, again, trying to understand before about imagery, you've kind of used topography as imagery. You said about the clusters kind of chaotic thought. I thought that was really interesting. Do you think you would take that further forwards, or is that, do you feel that's been fully explored?
I haven't really considered taking it further, but it might be something I could actually look at, because I think just having a one page probably isn't enough.
It's in there, isn't it? But
it maybe something, throughout because obviously a lot of it's heavily text based, maybe having bits of typography throughout the text will make it a lot more enjoyable for someone to read, instead of opening it going, oh God, I'm not going to read that. Yeah.
On the choosing of the fonts that you use for your imagery, I have noticed in two of the three leaflets or pamphlets you've got there, you've used the same fonts to create the image, and on the third one you've used a series of different fonts.
Yeah. That was, it's a good question actually. I think it was more that I just thought I thought it maybe be a bit repetitive if all of them were the same. I mean, I say that, two of them are more or less the same design, but that's maybe something I could look at, maybe making 3 separate typography ideas, or I can just, maybe it can keep up the house style of one type of typography style.
So I do agree well. I think using topography as an image is very good, it's quite clever. But there doesn't seem to be any order to it, or probably as much thought behind it as you've done for the layout, for example, and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think
that'd be fair to say.
Yeah, that'd be fair. I think that's probably down to the time management again, where it's like, I've got to get this done, and then not thinking about it, just trying to get it done without thinking about, does it fit tie in with what the theme is, what my target audience is. It's to maybe, you know, allow myself to have more time to think about what I'm going to do and how it ties in with what needs to be covered.
Thank you, Florence.
How do you think your awareness of that attention to detail has changed? Because you've effectively got just typography,
Yeah.
and it's on white. So every little detail is going to be picked up.
Yeah. I think a lot of it is just when I get into that state, it's just get something done. And I think that a lot of it is generally just me not thinking about what I'm doing. It's just, you know, that looks good. I think that looks nice. Not really kind of exploring what I could do, you know, as an alternative.
Have you shown any journey you've taken on this? Have you shown drafts you've done and then gone on to change it and then gone on to change it?
Yeah, I started off with
materials, etc.
with a couple of dummies, and I was originally going to have 4 booklets, but due to time catching up on me, I had to cut corners, and I cut it down because I felt it'd be easier for me to complete 3. So in that retrospect, I've
Where do you see this product interacting with the public?
see it. I plan to kind of feel that it's going to be in places where people will go during trouble, like with homelessness, and also like if there was a charity like Stone Pillar were doing an event, maybe it'd be something that could be laid out as a a pick-up thing that they can take, a freebie type thing, or in this case it'd be donations and pick it up.
Somewhere like Citizens Advice
Yeah.
Bureau might be really,
Yeah, that'd be good.
yeah. So I think in future what we want to see is that level of consideration,
Yeah.
because that then allows you to look at typographic stuff within that work,
Yeah.
or how you can improve on the typography of stuff that's already available at the Citizens Advice Bureau.
Just like the prisons, something like that. So, thank you for answering the questions. I know you had lots to deal with. Thank you.
Any other questions? No. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.